Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to the Midday News on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Mukhtar Kasim. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We begin from the presidency, where President Bola Tinubu will on Friday present a 2026 appropriation bill to a joint session of the National Assembly at 2 p.m. Clerk to the National Assembly, Kameru Ogunlana, disclosed this in a statement signed by the Secretary, Human Resources and Staff Development of the National Assembly, former President Muhammadu Buhari, to lead the two regulatory agencies created by the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA. To fill these positions, President Tinubu has written to the Senate requesting expedited confirmation of Orishemiwa Eyison as the CEO of NUPRC and Engineer Said Mohammed as CEO of the NMDPRA. Away from the presidency, the Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC) has defied the federal government to stage a nationwide protest despite a late-night meeting with President Bola Tinubu. Union leaders had met the president in Abuja on Tuesday in a bid to halt the planned action, which Labour said was aimed at calling for decisive action against rising insecurity in the country. An action NLC President Joe Ajero told journalists was not called off. Our correspondent Uyi Agbomofwigwe has more.
Ajero noted that the meeting did not amount to a cancellation, stressing that the Congress never issued any statement suspending the protest. According to him, repeated letters sent to the presidency since June on food, financial and physical insecurity faced by workers were ignored.
Part of the discussion we wanted to vote with the president is on national issue of security, both physical security, fiscal insecurity and financial insecurity. So it took this issue of action, which was basically to protest and to list to them the level of physical and financial insecurity that the workers are passing through.
Labour leaders say the protest was the only action that drew government attention, leading to consultations involving the Governors Forum and federal officials.
On the civil society side is that the country is bleeding, and the bleeding ought to be immediately stopped. And Nigeria, or the leadership of Nigeria, has failed to protect the people of Nigeria at this time.
Meanwhile, after talks with the government, the NLC said it would brief its national and state organs before announcing any final position. Government officials present at the meeting noted that dialogue is ongoing, with assurances given on economic recovery and labor concerns. The protest threat comes amid rising hardship and renewed calls for improved wages across the country. For now, the Labour Congress insists the streets remain its next line of action, pending a collective decision by its leadership. Uyi Agbomofwegbe, reporting for Global TV News.
Meanwhile, Labour Congress in Kano State has called on the federal government to urgently find a sustainable solution to the rising insecurity across the country. During a peaceful protest held in front of the Kano State Government House, workers decried the increasing attacks on ordinary citizens. Global TV correspondent Idris Jibrin reports.
Members of the Nigeria Labour Congress from the 44 local government areas of Kano State gathered at the Government House to voice their concerns over the growing insecurity in the country. The protest, according to the union, is part of a nationwide campaign to draw attention to the frequent bandit attacks, kidnappings in the north, and activities of militia groups in the south, all of which they say threaten the nation's economic and social stability.
Drawing the attention of the President and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces to do the needful for ensuring the security of the masses and the entire country. Because we are not secure. There is always insecurity in Nigeria, and it's escalating. That is why we intend to stage this peaceful protest to draw the attention of the powers that be, so that they can please give us their attention and try their best to secure our lives and properties.
The union is urging the federal government to improve the welfare of security operatives, especially those on the front lines, while stressing that no Nigerian should live in constant fear despite the country's vast resources.
The essence of this protest today is because of the insecurity. It's a decision that was taken by the National Executive Council of the Nigerian Labour Congress that we should state a protest in order to protest against the insecurity that is happening in Nigeria.
While receiving the protesters, officials from the Kano state government commended the peaceful nature of the protest and promised to forward their message to President Bola Tinubu for prompt action.
The issue. So the labor is exercising its constitutional rights, and it is doing it peacefully as per the constitutional provisions. So the government's position on this matter is positive. We welcome any positive interaction in a peaceful manner.
The state government also reaffirms its commitment to working closely with civil society groups to ensure sustained peace and security across the states. From Kano, Idris Jibrin, Global Television News.
In a related development, organized labor in Benue State has taken to the streets demanding urgent action over the rising wave of insecurity and killing across the state and the country at large. Our correspondent, Felicity Ndere, has details.
Placards carrying members of the Nigerian Labour Congress marched through major streets in Makurdi, joining similar protests held nationwide to draw attention to the worsening security situation. Addressing the crowd, the Benue State chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress said workers can no longer remain silent while innocent citizens are murdered and displaced from their homes. The Labour leader presented a formal letter outlining the demands of workers and residents to the Benue State government with a request that it should be forwarded to the presidency.
The insecurity in the state and in the country generally is too much. Tell me the truth. How come 450 people were being killed in Yoruba one night? Not correct. You can't go to Naka now, the most popular road that people go to, Naka local government, and they don't pass. So today, the Nigerian Labour Congress have decided to process. This is just an attempt to come and tell you that the insecurity in the country is not.
Receiving the letter on behalf of Governor Hyacinth Alia, the head of civil service, Dr. Moses Agbobo-Ode, assured the protesters that the state government is working closely with federal authorities and security agencies to restore peace.
Your message is very clear. The insecurity all over the country is actually too much, on the basis of which this state government, under the leadership of Hyacinth Alia, we never relent on her efforts until peace is achieved for every Benue person, until peace is achieved for all Nigerians living in Benue.
As calls for improved security grow louder, organized labor insists that protecting lives must remain a top priority, warning that peace and productivity cannot thrive in an atmosphere of fear. In Makurdi, Felicity Ndere, reporting for Global Television News.
The House of Representatives has issued an ultimatum to the Central Bank of Nigeria to conclude an ongoing reconciliation with the Ministry of Finance and the Fiscal Responsibility Commission over alleged unremitted revenue running into trillions of naira. Our National Assembly correspondent, Anita Patrick, completes the story.
The directive came from the House Committee on Public Accounts after the Central Bank of Nigeria requested additional time to appear before the committee following a resolution summoning the Apex Bank's governor. Chairman of the committee, Bamidele Salam, recalled that the investigation was initiated by a joint sitting of the committees on public accounts and public assets over alleged violations of the Constitution and the Fiscal Responsibility Act. According to the committee, reports from the Fiscal Responsibility Commission, the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, and a special audit allegedly showed that the CBN failed to remit about 5.2 trillion naira in operating surplus between 2015 and 2022. Other alleged infractions include outstanding remittances following the transition to the Treasury single account, discrepancies uncovered during the migration of the federal balances, and unpaid value-added tax on remittance transactions.
Based on the resolution of the House that was passed last week, we are supposed to make our findings and our decisions available for plenary before the end of January of 2026.
The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edu, acknowledged that reconciliation between fiscal and monetary authorities is continuous, but stressed the need for clarity, transparency, and a defined timeline.
Turnaround, I would say, of the Nigerian economy, including the metrics that came out yesterday showing lower, even further lowering of inflation, are part of this, what I would call general interaction, consultation, and working together. So part of that is our attempt to sit together to reconcile what actually, under the law, under the Fiscal Responsibility Act, is actually owed, what is owed, and to whom is it owed.
Lawmakers, however, urge caution, emphasizing the need to balance accountability with fair hearing.
I want to implore my colleague through the chairman to allow them, little time to come up with their documents that they said they are compiling. I think these are documents that should ordinarily be there, at their fingertip. They just recall it and submit to us.
The Fiscal Responsibility Commission also welcomed the reconciliation process, admitting challenges in enforcing compliance, but noting that recent legal amendments have strengthened its mandate. The committee has now fixed January 19, 2026 for the submission of reconciliation reports and January 26 for the personal appearance of the CBN governor. Findings from the final hearing will be presented to the House at plenary. From the National Assembly, Anie Patrick, reporting for Global TV News.
In the meantime, the House of Representatives has addressed concerns over the precautionary landing of a Nigerian Air Force aircraft in Burkina Faso, warning against the spread of misinformation capable of undermining Nigeria's diplomatic relations and public trust. Again, National Assembly correspondent Anita Patrick has details.
Lawmakers went into an executive session shortly after plenary commenced, a closed-door meeting that lasted about 42 minutes. When the House reconvened, members adopted a motion of urgent public importance on the incident involving a Nigerian Air Force C-130 aircraft. The House was informed that the aircraft, which was on an unauthorized ferry flight to Portugal for routine maintenance, made a safety-driven landing in Burkina Faso on December 18, 2025. In line with international aviation standards. Lawmakers emphasized that the aircraft was not on any operational or intelligence mission and that there was no verified evidence of interception or airspace violation.
The House is concerned that prolonged uncertainty surrounding the aircraft and its personnel could negatively affect national morale, civil-military confidence, and Nigeria's image within the sub-region. Swift, coordinated and transparent action is necessary.
It's extremely important that we also work with the other ECOWAS partners, ECOWAS countries, to make sure that the political space, the civic space within the region discourages coups that may be fermenting across the region.
That we have more professional touch in our diplomatic engagements. This is more so that it will help us, it will avoid second guessing while we are handling such very intricate diplomatic issues that will always confront this nation from time to time.
The House mandated its relevant committees to engage the appropriate ministries and agencies and report back within 2 weeks. Lawmakers also urged the federal government to activate bilateral ECOWAS and African Union mechanism to address the matter. From the National Assembly, Anita Patrick, reporting for Global TV News.
You're watching the live broadcast of the Midday News. When the Midday News returns, 2026 World Cup winner to receive $50 million. Details coming shortly. Please business and foreign stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us. You're welcome back from that break, and now to business news, where the House of Representatives has formally received a major fiscal proposal from President Bola Tinubu, transmitting an appropriation repeal and reenactment bill covered in the 2024 and 2025 budget cycles, alongside deliberations on amendment to the Electoral Act and concerns over parliamentary decorum. Here is Anieti Patrick's report.
In a letter read at plenary, President Tinubu forwarded the Appropriation Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2/2024, seeking National Assembly approval for a total expenditure of over 43 trillion naira for the 2025 fiscal year. The proposed budget allocates more than 1.7 trillion naira for statutory transfers, over 8 trillion naira for debt servicing, about 11.2 trillion naira for recurrent non-debt expenditure, and over 22 trillion naira for capital projects and development fund contributions. According to the president, the bill is designed to end the practice of running multiple budgets concurrently while strengthening fiscal discipline, accountability, and capital project performance.
This bill is to bring an end to the practice of running multiple budgets concurrently, while at the same time ensuring reasonable, indeed unprecedentedly high capital performance rates.
The bill also tightens spending controls, mandating that funds be released strictly for approved purposes, requiring National Assembly approval for variants, and enforcing periodic reporting on revenues and releases by government agencies. Lawmakers were urged to consider the bill expeditiously as it passed second reading and was transmitted to the Committee on Appropriation. Meanwhile, the House conducted a first reading of a supplementary bill seeking to amend the Electoral Act. Lawmakers agreed to amend the long title, clarifying that the proposal is an amendment rather than a repeal and reenactment of the existing Electoral Act. Proceedings were briefly interrupted as the presiding officer cautioned members of poor decorum on the floor of the House, warning against standing in the aisles, speaking out of turn, and disrespecting parliamentary ethics.
The original act is saying subsection 2 is giving you supported with an affidavit not less than 90 days. And then the amendment is giving you a window, is saying within, I think it's too tight.
Approve clause 62 as amended, approve clause 64 and 65 as amended, approve clause 71, 73 as amended, approve clause 74 as amended, and adjourn consideration to the next plenary.
The House thereafter adopted several clauses of the Electoral Act amendment, deferred orders for further consideration, and resolved to continue deliberations at the next plenary. From the National Assembly, Anieti Patrick, reporting for Global TV News.
Nigeria's small business sector is set for a major expansion in 2026 as the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency (SMIDEN) unveils sweeping plans to formalize millions of enterprises, expand access to funding, and strengthen support infrastructure nationwide. Director General of the agency, Charles Odi, disclosed this while briefing journalists in Abuja. Our business correspondent, Kikelomo Okere, has the details.
The Director General, SMIDEN, Charles Odi, announced that ongoing efforts to formalize informal businesses, which began in 2020, are expected to add more than 250,000 newly registered enterprises by the first quarter of 2026, with an ambitious target of registering 1 million additional businesses across the country. Odi stressed that business formalization remains critical to growth, visibility, and access to opportunities for small enterprises.
In 2026, we should have handed over 250,000 new registered businesses. And we are currently, I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag, but we're pushing with the presidency for another 1 million. So the last time we counted, we had about 39,654,385 nano, micro, small, and medium enterprises. But we are very certain that even though these are interesting times for small businesses, that number would go up because of the formalization process that is happening in that's happening now and will be unveiled in 2026.
The Smitham boss also reveals that a new national MSMEs policy under review since 2021 is nearing completion. It says the policy is being developed with strong stakeholders' engagement to ensure it directly addresses the real challenges facing micro, small and medium enterprises. On social inclusion, Udi says the agency is implementing programs aimed at reintegrating ex-prisoners into society through skills training and employment opportunities within the MSME sector to reduce stigma and promote economic inclusion. It further disclosed that 12 billion naira in affordable funding is currently available to small businesses with over 500,000 enterprises already benefiting.
Today is just one facility. We are working with some state governments. Some of them are very receptive. We want to make sure that we can replicate this across. Imagine that we have 774 of this across Nigeria. People, I think that would reduce the high rate of unemployment and insecurity in the country. Because there's a triangle that I always try to draw. Hunger leads to anger, anger leads to violence. So if you want to stop violence and insecurity, then let's address it from the hunger level. If our people are employed, our people are doing a lot of business, our people are doing a lot of job and they can see the fruits of their labor, they won't pick up arms.
Odi also emphasized plans to establish business support center in all 774 local government area and expressed optimism that approval for a proposed microfinance bank by the Central Bank of Nigeria will further strengthen support for professionals and business clusters. With increased funding, wider formalization, and a renewed policy framework, Smitham says the coming year will mark a turning point for Nigeria's small business economy. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
On the foreign scene, doctors in England have voted to go ahead with a 5-day strike starting this week in the busy Christmas season as what has been described as a super flu outbreak sweeps the country. Prime Minister Keir Starmer branded the move as irresponsible, stating that doctors had lost the sympathy of the public and their colleagues in the state-funded National Health Service. Our health correspondent Zara Unasir completes the story.
Let's do it today, fix our jobs, fix our pay. Come on West, do it today, fix our jobs, fix our pay.
The industrial action comes as flu cases in hospitals across England rejected a new fare offer from the government and walkout beginning from 7 a.m. local time on Wednesday.
Well, we're here today because 30,000 doctors voted to go on strike, and that's because the government was unable to produce a credible offer on both jobs and pay. And on jobs, we know that we're under doctors as a nation. We know that we're about 40,000 doctors short compared to the EU average, and that means doctors are having to do the job of multiple doctors, and that's why patients are waiting longer than ever for appointments, for treatments, waiting in corridors, in A&E. That is not dignified.
The resident doctors, those below consultant level, are in dispute with the government over pay and a shortage of training opportunities. The government in 2024 awarded the doctors a 28.9% fare rise over the last 3 years, but the BME, which represents resident doctors, is demanding an extra 26%. It says it's needed to achieve fair restoration after years of below-inflation pay deals.
I think it's really sad because obviously, like, we care so much about patients. Everyone in the NHS is so hardworking, but it's just so demoralising when you're not treated right by the pay that you're getting, by the training that is available to you. It just feels like they don't care about us, they don't care about our futures.
Attempts to reduce patient waiting lists have been affected, in part by the repeated industrial action by both resident doctors and consultants. Zahra Nasr reporting for Global TV News.
And now to the exciting world of sport. Manchester City will face holders Newcastle United in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup following the official draw released by the English Football League. Chelsea will play the winners of the quarter-final tie between Arsenal and Crystal Palace, scheduled for December 23. The semi-final fixtures were confirmed after City defeated Brentford and Newcastle edged Fulham in stoppage time. Still talking sport, the winners of the 2026 FIFA World Cup will receive $50 million in prize money as part of a record $655 million total prize fund announced by FIFA. The tournament, to be hosted by the United States, Mexico and Canada, will feature 48 teams for the first time. Teams eliminated at the group stage will receive $9 million, while all participating nations will get an additional $1.5 million for preparation costs.